Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. You guys know who it is. This is Tony Lynch. I am the host of this podcast, and we are your number one podcast for bringing you conversations around grief, mental health, trauma, and recovery, right? And all the things that come in between. Yeah, and so before I get started, I would like to say that thank you guys for your support. And if this is your first time tuning in, do me a favor, head on over to their YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified that we when we drop a new episode. And after that, I would like to just say that this is for educational purposes only. And as always, we are bringing an amazing guest to you guys. This guy is freaking amazing, right? I had the chance to talk with him and everything. And so you guys get your comments and your questions ready. Put them in the comment section. We'll address them as we go along throughout the conversation. And as always, this is for educational purposes only. And so, without further ado, you guys help me welcome my guest, the amazing TJ. TJ, how you doing, brother?
Hey Tony, how you doing?
Yeah, man. Pleasure to have you on the show, man.
I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, most definitely, most definitely. So before we get started, introduce yourself, tell people where you're from and about the work that you do.
So my name is TJ Freeze. I'm 29 years old. I'm from a little town in Ohio. Obviously moved away since then, but still located in Ohio. I'm a firefighter paramedic currently at one department, soon to be two. We work 24-hour shifts, and I am just starting my journey into entrepreneurship. And there were some struggles along the way, even before I thought about being a business owner. There were struggles during the entrepreneurial process, but now here I am, about to start a company and operate a company that it's fresh, brand new. But in our first 12 months, me and my partner, we are projected to do almost 8 figures gross in our first 12 months of business.
Holy crap, dude. That is freaking amazing.
Thank you.
That is amazing. And of course you and I have talked. And you used to be a firefighter, right? You know,
Still am. Still am.
oh yeah. You still are. You still are.
Still
Thank you
am.
for your
Yep.
service. As always,
Thank you.
and everybody up here that's listening, please thank this man for his service because it's such a thankless job that we forget to thank those that are out there serving us on a day-to-day basis. Please make sure that he knows that he is loved and supported. Um, and with that being said, like you have a story.
Oh yeah. I got a
You,
bunch, but I got one big main one.
yeah, you got an amazing story, man. And so let's dive into it. Let's dive into it. Tell
Sure.
people who you were, your about your journey, man.
So I
Please.
started out as a back in my hometown, really small town of maybe 900 people. Everyone knew everyone. Every kid knew each other's kids. Every parent knew every parent. Literally everyone knew everyone. As a kid, you couldn't do anything in that town without somebody knowing about it and go back and telling your parents. It's one of those really small
I
communities.
understand
Oh
that.
yeah, oh yeah, you couldn't do anything wrong, at least. So back in my hometown, I knew I wanted to be a firefighter when one of my friends and I were that were hanging out. I think we were 15 at the time, and he was on the fire department. It was a volunteer department. That they weren't staffed or anything. Everyone responded from home when there was a call, and he was too young to actually be a firefighter. So they had this volunteer department had something called a explorer program for aspiring firefighters from the ages of 14 to 17, and he was a part of that. And we were hanging out one day, and we heard sirens going, and he was like, "Hey, TJ, I gotta go. Fire department's got a call." And he literally everything we were doing, he just dropped it, got on his bike, and hauled to the firehouse to respond to this call. And the first time I saw him do it, I was like, "That's awesome. That's what I wanna do that." So fast forward to after I graduate high school, I got my first certification. It's called firefighter level 1. It's kind of like an entry level into the fire service. and ran as a volunteer, just like my friend did for a while. And that class was actually paid for by the state, so that was completely free for me. And then I got into the next level up, which is firefighter level 2. Just goes into a little bit more detail about the job and some of the stuff that they don't teach, everyone in level 1. So I got that. That was reimbursed to me by the department that I was on, and then I was working at my parents' shop at the time, just kind of part-time, 20 hours a week, maybe for $10 an hour, just to, have some spending money, because I was still living at home at that point. So I knew I wanted to do firefighting and EMS as a career. So I got a full-time job as a 911 dispatcher. Started that in 2016, and I did that basically to pay my way through EMT school, which is about 4 months, and it's about, I think that class was $1,600. So I was a 911 dispatcher from 2016 to 2019, and we can go into detail about that as much as you like. Like we discussed before, no questions are off limits. So if you feel free to ask anything about that.
Yeah, most
so
definitely.
911 dispatcher from 2016 to 2019, and then I got my EMT certification, EMT Basic, which is your entry level into EMS and ambulance work. Got that in 2019. Left dispatch because I was on night shift at the time, and transitioned into the fire service, which we work 24-hour shifts, but we're still, have a regular, semi-regular sleep schedule when we're off. I was getting up at 7 a.m. instead of going to bed at 7 a.m. Like I was on night shift. Did that from, technically still do, but I was a EMT Basic from 2019 up until July of last year. And then July of last year, I got my paramedic certification, which is the highest level you can get in emergency medicine. Got that last July, and I am still doing it to this day. I actually just got off a 24-hour shift yesterday, and I've got another one tomorrow. And then began the journey into business ownership, because as much as I love my job, and I absolutely love my job, it just does not pay the bills like I want it to. I mean, we live, we're able to make our bills, but we don't have very much disposable income and I've got a 9-month-old. So I wanted to be able to give him and my wife and me the absolute best life that I possibly could. So I started looking into business ownership. Started out in real estate, reselling or researching wholesaling. Found out wholesaling wasn't really for me. Then I learned about house flipping, which is much more common. That's, there's TV shows about flipping houses. So started out with research, probably about 6 months worth of research into house flipping. Tried to learn about every step of the process and every detail I possibly could about each step in the process. Long story short, and I'm sure we'll dive into it, so I'll keep it kind of brief until the specific questions come in. But long story short, throughout the journey, I got scammed twice out of almost 15 grand. That's kind of when I put real estate on the back burner. It's still something that I kind of wanted to do, but I wanted to be sure I knew what I was doing, so that didn't happen again. And then I put a ad on Facebook, or a post on Facebook, looking for a specific job. It's called a capital raiser and an acquisitions manager. Basically, they go out and bring real estate deals to me, or clients of any kind for that matter, and they go out and find funding for these different ventures.
Now I got a question. Because
Sure.
I was listening to you, and just in that little short section, you said a lot, right? And I want to backtrack a little bit.
Okay.
I just want to backtrack a little bit, because being a firefighter, and I have friends who are firefighters, you guys see some of the most craziest shit out there, right?
Yep.
And it affects you, and it definitely affects you.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So let's backtrack a little bit to that area where you was a firefighter, right? Because it takes a different breed to want to be a firefighter, and you became an EMT, right? You know what I'm saying? So I know that's in your heart.
Absolutely.
But you had to see some stuff that go along with that to, you know what I'm saying, that didn't
Mhm.
break you, but said, hey, you know what? I am going to take this experience and I'm going to maximize on it because I want to do more good in the world
Mhm.
and things like
Absolutely.
that. So let's dive into that real quick.
Sure.
Uh, let's dive into some of the stuff that you've seen and the mental aspect of it and becoming the person that you are. You know, having a good, strong mental,
Mhm.
right? Because
Sure.
you have a family, and
Absolutely.
so you know, and I really want to, you know, I want to dive into that, but I want to dive into how do you separate the two from family and work, 24 hours a day,
Mhm.
right?
So the I actually got really lucky because my wife is also a first responder. She's a 911 dispatcher currently.
Okay,
So most first responders don't have that luxury of being able to have someone at home who completely, 100% understands the kind of stuff you go through and how it affects you, because
right,
she
right,
experiences it the same way, just on the phone instead of with her eyes. So I'm very fortunate to be in that situation, but I know plenty of people who plenty of first responders who are, their significant others are, not to put anyone down, but, office workers, retail workers,
right,
restaurant
right.
workers, they're not in public safety. So they appreciate the stress and the trauma that their significant other goes through, but they don't truly 100% understand it.
Yes,
So, but when I first met my now wife, and we've had this conversation multiple times, we have said that all of our conversations cannot be 100% about the job. It can't. We have to put our job on the side burner when we're in our own home. So everything conversation. I mean, obviously stuff comes up, but
right,
90% of our conversations have nothing to do with work. And a lot of the first responders that I know that are not married or in a relationship with public safety workers, they don't talk about their experiences at all with their significant other. Number one, because it's difficult to talk about to begin with, but number two, they don't want to put that sort of trauma onto someone that would be extreme, deeply affected by it, because they're not exposed to it as much as we are as first responders. So a
right.
direct answer to your question is that my wife and I, specifically to us, we table any conversation about work. That's left for maybe the end of the night when we're getting ready to, when we're kind of winding down, baby's already in bed. Um, we talk about work for a few minutes, unless she needs to rant about or vent about a call she took. But other than that, mainly everything is tabled until the evening, and the
Right.
day is just for regular everyday conversation.
Okay, okay. Wow, that is truly amazing because I have talked to a lot of people, police officers, you know, and other paramedics, firefighters, etc. Right, and I have to say that the rate of separation is very high.
Very, yep.
Right,
I
and
don't know the percentage, but a lot of
yeah,
first responders are divorced, in the middle of a divorce, or there's also a lot of infidelity
right,
in
yes,
public safety.
right. And then you know, and I thought that was kind of I thought that was crazy because I was like, wow, you would think that the person that you're with would have a better understanding about the job that you do. Like if you choose a life of servitude, right? You know, there's a lot of things that come along with that. You know what I'm saying? It's just like being in the military, right? You're going to go
Hmm.
across seas, you're going to fight a country, and you want everything, you know, you want everything in your heart to believe that the person that you with, that you can trust.
Exactly. Yep.
And, you know, and man, I don't like to sound negative and everything, but it doesn't work out too well for the man across seas.
Nope.
And I find that to be um, heartbreaking.
It is. It's disgusting, to be totally honest, that it has
Right.
to come to that.
And you know, you being a firefighter, um, and I have to put this out there, and I'm not throwing shade on anyone. I just want to get your thoughts about this as well, right? Because there was a video that was done not too long ago, and it's going to sound racist, but it's not racist. It's just bringing up a point that what was said.
Hmm.
I want to get your thoughts on it, and then I want to hear your experiences in these aspects, if that's okay with you.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. So there was a video posted not too long ago where a young black man went into a diner, and there was a older white couple, right? And the older gentleman called the black guy over, the young African American, black, whatever, however you wanted to identify. I don't really know these days. I really don't. And they had a conversation. And the young gentleman said, "Can I pay for your food?" And he said, "Yeah," and it sparked the conversation. And the older man was an old firefighter. He said, "I want to apologize to you." He goes, "Why?" He goes, "Because when I first got into doing being a firefighter and things like that, my heart was in it and things like that, and the people that I was around influenced this." And he says, over my period of time, we used to go to buildings, and if there was a black building, we used to let people burn alive.
Oh wow.
And I thought, and this is what they were told by their captains. Now, again, this is not our generation. This is a very older generation,
Hmm.
and things like that. And and he goes and he apologized to the young man, and the young man was like, "Why would you tell me something like this?" He goes, "Because I wanted you to know that this is the system that you consistently have to fight."
Hmm.
Right? And the grief that I saw in that man's eyes and heard from coming from his heart was heartbreaking, because I was like, wow, because of how it affected him. And then the realization, right? And I'm not putting you on the spot. You can say,
Oh no,
"Hey,
you're good.
you
You're
know what?
fine.
I don't know nothing about that," or whatever, right?
Yeah, no, you're
Uh,
good.
then so now I posed that question. Have you ever seen anything like that before?
Nothing that's specific. I just like you mentioned that older seasoned firefighter came from a different a different period in time in the fire service where
Mhm.
I can almost guarantee that when he entered the fire service and probably a few years after, they didn't even allow black men in the fire service, and if they did, they were very very highly scrutinized. And um, so that was he lived and was brought up an entire different generation than I am. That kind of stuff would not fly at all in this decade, even this decade of firefighting. If anyone got wind that any certain department was going to, an apartment building that was on, or a house or whatever building was on fire, and an African American family lived in it, and they let the house burn just because of the color of their skin, that department would get absolutely lit up on every social media site, every news agency. That department would be, you know, blacklisted for all intents and purposes. No one would join it. Most people would probably quit, except for those good old boys that were brought up in it.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. I'm sure. I'm sure stuff. I'm sure. Prejudice still happens in the fire service and in every aspect of life, but nothing like that would ever fly now. And I personally have not seen anything like that. I think I only work with two or have worked with two African American firefighters, and if anything, they are the ones who are getting, the brunt of it, and you know, not the other way around. Not a black civilian getting, scrutinized or being prejudiced from a white firefighter. Um, that
Okay.
level of prejudice just wouldn't fly today at all.
Now, here's what we here's this is a question that I've always been curious about, because as firefighters, when I was a kid, there was there was a fire, uh, not too far from where I lived, literally right across the street. I have to actually had to I witnessed the whole thing. I was young. There was my mom's friend. She was over there. There was a fire that broke out, and her twin boys was burned alive.
Hmm.
And we stayed out there. We watched the firefighters fight this fight, man, and they were doing amazing. but I saw the aftermath, the hurt, the pain that came along with that of not being able to save these children and things like that. And I want to ask the grieving aspect that comes along with that when there is such a situation, right? Have you, one, ever experienced anything like that? And two, what was some of the things that you had to do in order to get your mental health back into the place where you needed to be in order to go out there and serve again?
So I have not personally been on a fatal fire yet.
Mm,
Most, actually, all the fires that I've gone to were either empty buildings, buildings under renovation, or the residents, were weren't home and they came home and the house was on fire, or they noticed a room was on fire and got everyone out. I see I've been on fires where animals have passed away, and I'm a huge
mm,
dog lover. I'm a huge animal lover, so
right,
that
right.
does hurt. Um, I haven't been on a fatal fire, so I can't speak to how that, obviously can't speak to how that would affect me. Um, I can't even imagine being in that situation. I can tell you that one of my previous department, my chief, had to respond, and the entire department and other departments had to respond to a house fire where there was a 30s, I think 35 or something like that year old. He was either quadriplegic or he was a full amputee, but he had no movement at all. I can't remember if he had his limbs and they just didn't work, or if he didn't have them at all. But he could not move, and he was bound to his wheelchair bound, for the rest of his life. He was still mentating just fine. He wasn't like a vegetable, but he didn't have limbs or they didn't work. And the
Okay.
fire got so bad by the time they got there. My chief was the first one there, and he looked through the front door, saw the guy in the wheelchair, probably about 10 feet back from the front door. But by the time that my chief could even get to the front door, that entire room was filled with fire, and he in good conscience, he obviously can't send his people in to save that guy in a room that's full of fire where it's not tenable, and that guy is not, like, he has no chance. He survived maybe, I think, 3 minutes after the room was fully engulfed. So my chief actually had to watch this guy, and listen to him burn to death, essentially. So I was not on that fire. I heard all about it. I saw the aftermath. I drove back. We've driven past it in the fire engine a few times. I saw it on the news. I've talked to him about it. I've talked to the crew about it. That destroyed everyone, but that really affected my chief, because he was the one who had to make the decision. No, we are not going in to save this guy, because I can't risk my people, to save this person who is going to die before we can even, pack up and get our masks on and everything like that. That really affected him, and him talking about that is the only time I've ever seen that man cry. And I've worked for him for 7 years. So that affected him deeply, very deeply.
So my next question, wow, dude, that's deep.
Yeah,
That's real
that
deep,
was
right?
that
Because
was a bad one.
right, we never really think about those things, right? You know what I'm saying? There's some people that would take the loss of their loved ones so personable, because perception versus reality, what you see is not always what the reality is.
Hmm.
And you just laid out something so profound that it gives people something to think about.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like sometimes people have to make those hard decisions.
Hmm.
And although you may not understand it, and people may have a different perspective, but it's the best decision in those moments.
Hmm.
I would assume.
Yeah,
And
because in essence, you're risking 7+ people's lives to attempt to save one that has no chance, essentially.
right,
And that was actually one of the things he said. the hardest thing for him to deal with that is he said in his words verbatim, I had to make the decision on who lived and who died, you know, and that
Right.
that resonated. I was like, wow, I hope I'm never put in that kind of position.
Now, I want to ask you a very basic question. You know, what I'm saying, to get your thoughts about it. At least basic in my thought pattern as well. And for most people out there, it may be something a little bit more. Um, what is your definition of grief? Right.
So my definition of grief is having to deal with any situation that takes your mental health out of the norm.
Mm, I like that. Okay. And so now my next question is, because now we could tie in the mental health to the work, to the
Mm.
servitude of others. And you and I talked, we vibe, right?
Oh
You
yeah.
know what I'm saying? And we
Oh yeah.
we're both service in our communities and things like that. And so now that you're in EMT, what are some of the challenges that you see within the communities that you serve?
So the challenges that I've seen aren't particularly well. One of them is community based. It's not a huge issue, but most of the challenges that I've faced aren't dictated by the community we serve. They're dictated by the situations that we're put in. The only community based issue or challenge that I've ever had is one of the departments that I used to work for. The the residents were extremely entitled. They had a high sense of entitlement, so
Yeah.
much so that whenever they saw us in front of someone's house on a call, they would walk up to us, and sometimes people even open the doors to the ambulance while we're working on a patient, and just to ask what's going on, and they don't know the patient, they don't even know what we're doing there, but they this particular community has such a high sense of entitlement. They would literally walk up to our ambulance, whether we're working on a patient or not, sometimes open the ambulance door and say, "Hey, what's going on? Tell me what's going on." And by law, we can't. So we tell them, like, it's just a call. The ambulance was there so we could tell them it's a medical issue,
Mhm.
but we're like, it's a medical problem. We got it under control. And a lot of times the response we get was, "You have to tell me. It's my right to know, and you guys have to tell me." First of all, no, we don't. And second of all, why are you here? You have nothing to do with this call. So
Right.
that's the only community-based issue that I've experienced, and the rest of the challenges were, um, I don't want to say stereotypical, but they're the common ones that you would expect firefighters, EMTs, and paramedics to face. The hard calls, the
Right.
sleepless nights, the late nights, the very very early mornings. All that kind of stuff.
Man, it's disheartening when people feel entitled because it
Very.
takes away from what you need to do,
Absolutely.
right? And this is where I have to ask, where do you think we went wrong when people feel that they have this sense of entitlement to
I,
know everything that's going on? Like, I can just interrupt you in the middle of having a person's heart in your hand.
well, okay, so yes, I agree. I had that same mindset, but I actually I feel very strongly, and so did my crew, about why this particular community has such a sense of entitlement. Um, Without getting too much detail and throwing names out there, this particular community was very very closely associated with a high level celebrity.
Mm,
They have a
okay.
high they have a high level celebrity that lives within its jurisdiction and has events within its jurisdiction. So they
Okay.
feel like, oh, so XYZ celebrity lives in my town. I'm God in essence.
Wow. I have to say, and this is just my own thoughts when I say this. but there's a level of throat punchery that needs to go on. All right,
Yeah, there there have been plenty of times where I I wish I could have. I'm not gonna lie. There have been times where I've literally wanted to literally donkey kick people out of my ambulance just because they
Ooh,
were such a they were they prevent they prevented me from doing my job. And
yeah,
at
yeah.
that point it's a patient safety issue. So get out of my way.
Now let's go back a little bit
Hmm.
because I want to understand like the family aspect, right?
Hmm.
Um, how hard was it to maintain that balance?
It's not as hard with my wife because, like I said, she's a first responder as well. Um, but with my other family, my parents, brother, sister, that type of family, um, I don't unless they ask me about it, I don't volunteer information unless I'm coming to them for um, you know help, in essence, for help with my mental health. Sometimes I'll vent to them about a difficult call that I had. Actually, before I met long before I met my wife, my first year at my volunteer department after I got certified as a firefighter level 1, I
Mhm.
had in the first 12 months, I believe I had 7 dead bodies in my first 12 months that I had to respond to.
Holy
And
crap!
after the first one was really traumatic because number one, it's the first one I ever responded to, and as a 18, 19-year-old kid who just got into this, not ever seen something like that,
Yeah.
that alone is its own, set of feelings. But this particular one, my very first one, was particularly uh, disturbing because the guy had passed away, and I mean, he was gone long enough to where he was almost the guy. It was a white guy, but he was almost black. Because so he had been gone that long that I think
Yeah.
they're estimating about 2 weeks. Um, that he had been gone before we found him. So, but the weirdest part is that the way his room was set up, he died in bed, and the way his room was set up is he was laying on his left side on his bed. He was still, he was one of those people that, like, slept with his arm like under his head.
Hmm.
Um, basically using his arm as a pillow. He died with his eyes open, and he was watching, a little TV that was in front of him. So we were literally just walking into this, and this guy is just like, dead staring at his TV that was playing like that music channel or something like that. And this guy had been dead for 2 weeks. So that alone was its own thing. And I vented to my parents about that because I was still living at home at that time. But after the fourth, fifth, and sixth one, I think I had my first 3 in my first month. And then after the third and fourth one, I had to go to them because I knew not to bring it home to people who didn't understand. But after the or the fourth or fifth one, I had to I had to get it out.
Now, here's my next question because I'm always supporting men that have that are going through some of the most similar things, right? And as a man, did you find it hard um, to be able to not only open up but find the words to articulate the things that you were experiencing in those
Oh,
moments?
for sure, for sure. I felt like, I was brought up with that mentality that no one, well, not no one, but people don't truly care about your feelings and your emotions as a man. Don't cry about it. Just keep it in, and it's good. It's gonna go away. It's already happened. You can't change. You can't do anything about it. So just put it in the back of your mind, and let bygones be bygones. That's how I was brought up. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
so it did, because I remember when after like my fourth or fifth dead body in that first 12 months, I I came home from the call, and I just sat on the couch silent with, just, kind of like this with my head in my hands. My mom came up to me and she was like, "Are you okay?" And I didn't know what to say because I didn't want to say, "No, I'm not okay," but I had to say that I wasn't okay. I didn't know how, so I just kind of like looked at her like, I don't know. And that's literally all I said. I looked at her dead in her eyes and I said, "I don't know."
Do you think, and this is where I'm coming from a more personal point of view, and everything else, because I've seen my fair share of dead bodies, and seen my fair share of people get killed along the way.
Mm-hmm.
And so have most of my guests and everything. And I want to, first, before I pose this question and the statement, I want to say thank you for everyone who has been tuning in on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, all of you guys. Thank you guys, and please put your questions or comments in the comment section, and we'll be answering those as we go. But Lincoln, we got to talk about, because I want to know what the LOL is and everything like that. You know what I'm saying? Because honestly, I'm trying to find the connection, and things like that. Um, so be respectful, be mindful of the comments that you do put in the comment section, because if it becomes disrespectful, I will block you. All right. Now, with that being said, I want to ask you this question, because how does that change an individual?
For me, particularly, I have found that I got from my first certification that I got when I first joined the fire service in 2015. Yeah, in 2015. So in 9 years, I have become much more stoic, I guess would be the best word for it. I used to be, all through high school, and even right after I graduated, a couple years after I graduated, I was this really outgoing, upbeat, always positive kind of person. But after 9 years of being in the fire service and seeing, what I have, and there's people that have seen much worse than I have. I'm not saying that I've seen the worst of the worst. But what I have seen in the 9 years that I've been doing this, has definitely turned me into a more stoic, more less more nonchalant. I've always been kind of easygoing, but stuff that would kind of freak me out now, or would have freaked me out before, just doesn't now, just because of it's the stuff that I've seen is it would just kind of numb is the best word I can describe it. Very emotionally numb is the best word. Is a really good way to say it.
Well, I'm going to address two different comments over here. So we got a comment over here that I don't think you've seen, my man, on the YouTube channel. That was a LOL, but you're commenting on Instagram, so I don't think they both seen the comment. So I do apologize if it got kind of misconstrued or anything like that. But no, I wasn't referring to that. I was referring to another comment over here. But no, I don't. It may have been. It may have been. I don't know. It may have been. But I just want to say, when it comes down to it, I don't think they can see each other. I think I have to relate the conversation between the two, and everything else. But it's all good though. And I just wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page and being able to engage with the guests and things like that. So please, by all means, if you have any questions or for the guests, please put them in the comment section. You already know, brother. We want to engage. We want to ask those questions. Please ask
Yep,
those.
absolutely. And to add on to that, Tony and I spoke obviously before this, and I told him no question is off the table. Same thing for for the viewers. Whatever you want to ask, put it out there. I'm not I'm not one of those I can't answer that. I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to ask, go for it. Absolutely go for
Yeah,
it.
we're here. You know what I'm saying? We're in the muck, man. And he's taking us on this journey. So, no, as he said, no questions are off the table. Ella, this is the first time I've ever met you. Thank you for the sunflowers. And if you have any questions or comments that you would like to put in the comment section, please put them over there. This is a very interactive podcast. So, please, by all means, guys, engage with us, right? And let us know what you would like to know. And if I can't answer, I'm pretty sure TJ Fries, he can answer it, right? Because he's talking from a different perspective, from a paramedic as well as a firefighter, as well as what I'm saying, a man, and then mostly as a family man, right? So guys, put those. Come on now, engage with us. And so, with that being said, I want to say thank you for clarifying that and letting people know that you're okay with any questions that come across, and that come across the table. Um, Lincoln, yeah, he says I commend you. I commend TJ for his service. Much respect, and
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Lincoln has been one of those guys I've been knowing for a lot of years and things like that. We've been knowing each other, you know.
The throw punch comment.
So much comment. You know what? I'm over your stuff already, Lincoln. I'm over your stuff. You better stop. Yeah. But now here's my question: as an individual, as a man, how does one begin to take the steps to not only um, make this a part of their servitude, as like a daily regimen, right? Because nothing it becomes everything is different, but you have to be able to disassociate yourself from things in order to have a mentally healthy transition in life.
Hmm.
So how does one go about doing something like
So for me personally, some of the biggest things that I found, as not only as a man, but as a firefighter paramedic, you have to have different avenues of pleasure, and um, extracurricular pleasure. I'm not so not what I'm talking about. Even though I mean that helps, but I mean
that?
hobbies is what I'm talking about.
I'm over your stuff already.
Feel like I had to clarify that. Uh, hobbies is what really has helped me. But you also have to be careful with that because one of my hobbies actually turned into something that I did plan to discuss with you. One of my hobbies turned into a gambling addiction. So don't let it go that far. But you do need multiple avenues. So I still do a little bit, a woodworker. Um, I was a I was a stop motion animator. Made I made stop motion videos with Legos. That was a huge hobby of mine for a while.
Mhm.
I play video games. I love hanging out with my dogs whenever I can, and I can actually have time. Actually have time to to walk them or whatever, play outside with them. Spending a lot of time with family. I'm very family oriented, not just my wife and my kid, but my parents, my siblings, all that. Um, if you have them in your life and you're close enough to them to be able to call them up and be like, hey, uh, day hasn't been great, week hasn't been great. Let's go out, get some lunch or something. Um, take advantage of that, use that, because that for me that was huge. Lean on family. You don't have to vent to them, you don't have to unload everything, but just being able to be around them, especially if they're really really positive people, that really helped me. But having multiple avenues of of pleasure, in essence, multiple avenues of things that can take your mind off of whatever's bothering you at the time.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. And I guess my next question would be, well, before, and I want to say, Israel, thank you, guys, for putting that in there. Um, you know, because he said he definitely doesn't have that, right? and hopefully we can help you develop some different areas where it does when you can hold on to something that's of your own. I mean, TJ and I both talked, and I've I'm a gambling addict, right? As well as an alcoholic. I just don't do neither one of them. But if I ever had the chance, what I'm saying, and I was ever in a moment, I'm going up to the nearest casino. I'm going to gamble all night long and see what happens. And I'm going to drink and things like that. And I don't have an off switch, which in turn gets me in a lot of trouble. Gets me in
Hmm.
a lot of trouble. And you and I, we talked about this, right? And I told you I got a friend, David, that wrote a book on gambling. He figured out how to beat the system. I was like, I don't need this book because you're going to get me back into it, and I don't want to do that because you
Exactly.
just gave me the blueprint to win, right? And the first time I lose my $100, I'm coming back with $300 because I got to win back my $100 and then some,
Exactly.
and things like that. Um, here's a question for you, TJ. Um, has a job ever caused you nightmares?
Oh my God, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Lee.
Um, so I I'm sure this question is going to come up. Usually, it's usually a very very taboo question to ask anyone, and ask a public safety worker or anyone in the military. But it's extremely relevant to this question. The question, the inevitable question I'm referring to is, what's the worst thing you've ever seen? I have been asked that before, and honestly, the answer changes because if you would ask me that 2 years ago, the worst thing, other than that string of dead bodies that I saw in the first 12 months, other than that, the worst thing that I had seen up to that point was a dog that climbed up a tree, and the tree, I mean, he climbed up probably 15 foot, and he had been out there all night, and my superiors, I guess, wanted to rig up this ridiculous rope system to try to climb up there and get him when we really could have just climbed the fucking tree and brought him down. Instead, they wanted to rig up this whole rope system, and in the time it took for that to happen, and for one of the guys to actually start climbing up the tree with the ropes, the dog fell out of the branch, smacked the ground as hard as he could. He was still alive, but the owner came up and immediately BB'd him right in the head. So that
Wow.
was, yeah. And I understand why they did it, and I can't say that I would have done the same thing. I would have at least tried to see how he was, how he was. But I understand that they didn't want to put him through any kind. They didn't want him to suffer.
Right.
It was a little quick, in my opinion, but that's beside the point. 2 years ago, that would have been the worst thing I've ever seen. Now, the worst thing would have been a 12-year-old 12-year-old girl who was riding her bike, and she went across a crosswalk and got absolutely crushed by a lady going probably 50. That was the first time that I had ever seen exposed brain matter. Her head was, she was laying, on her front with her head turned, but her chin was touching the back of her shoulder. There was blood and literally brains, everywhere. So that is the worst thing that I've ever seen. That took a while and some, I don't want to say unorthodox, but not common methods to get over. And that one gave me nightmares for a long time. The first one that ever gave me nightmares was a suicide, where a guy had he shot himself through the mouth and out the back of his head. The thing that got me about that one is that it happened right down the like 2 houses down from the firehouse. So we heard the shot and we locked all the firehouse doors because we thought it was a murder. We thought it was a homicide. And then we get toned out for a gunshot victim. So we're thinking it was a homicide, but it wasn't. And we get there and he was up on a balcony. So we all go up there to see what we can do. And I was pulling myself up on the handrails, like you do when you climb stairs.
Yeah.
But after I got up there, saw there's nothing we could do for him. When I got back down, I looked at my hand and my glove was covered in blood. That gave me nightmares for a couple nights. But the 12-year-old that got hit, then the 12-year-old that got hit was on the 4th of July. Yeah, so that made it twice as bad. But that one gave me that was the only call that I've ever had to do grief counseling for, and that one gave me nightmares probably for I think a week is what it was. So yeah,
Wow.
it's happened.
Wow. I got a question and a comment. My man Israel over here on Instagram, he said, I wouldn't know what to do if I seen something like that. And which is a valid statement. It's very valid because you never know in any situation what you're going to do. I know we can have theories or hypothesis of if it happened to me, this is what I'm going to do. We all say those things and this, that, and another, right? Until it actually happens. And then it changes the whole dynamic because now reality has set in. It's no longer a fantasy of words that's being spoken. Now it's a seen thing. And the question slash comment that you see up here with Lincoln, knowing that you see some things, but your wife being a 911 dispatcher has probably taken some very rough calls. How do you switch back to family life after a rough day?
So that is the only time where we will immediately talk about the job. If Because there's been plenty of times where she's had a really rough night because she was on nights for a long time while I was still
Mhm.
on my 24-hour shifts. There'd be a lot of times where she'd come home 7:30 in the morning, and as soon as she walked in, she'd see me and absolutely break down because of the night that she had. That is the time that I was referring to a little bit earlier when we would talk about the job for very first thing because for both of us, that is the only way. Well, not the only way, but a big way to decompress for us is to talk it out, tell each other how what happened, what the how it panned out from beginning to end, how we feel about it, and what we feel like we could have done different, and all the stress debriefing topics that you would go over. That's the only time that we would actually have that conversation very first thing during the day. And there's been plenty of times where I've done the same thing. I've walked in and I just immediately unloaded on her about a call that I had the day before. And
Yeah.
sometimes we talk it out and be like, okay, cool. Let's just get on with our day. There's been plenty of times where we both cried in each other's arms, and after we got all of our tears out, then we go out and have one of the best days that we've had in months. So talking it through is the best way. Talking it through early, not waiting until the evening, because by that time all the emotions that you had from the call just fester the entire day, and
Mhm.
then that's when you start to bicker and fight before you actually have a chance to talk about it, because all these emotions and all these feelings are so bottled up, and then out of nowhere you just snap. So
Yeah.
getting it out of the way early and then leaving the rest of the day for uh, your family time. That's how we were able to transition from a rough day into family time.
Now, I have to ask, as a man, with this, where there's ever any conflict of interest, and what I mean by that, because as men, we get taught something different than what females get taught,
Hmm.
right? We get taught to man up, to suck it up, and things
Yep.
like that. Did you ever have a problem with articulating what you were going through, or was it ever, did you ever have um, the opportunity to actually express and learn how to articulate your emotions in a healthy environment?
The only time that was an issue was the 12-year-old, because my department actually brought in grief counselors that were themselves first responders as a incident stress debriefing, or post incident stress debriefing. That was the only time where I've ever had, I guess, trouble, other than my first dead body that I had to taught my mom about. But that was the only time where I actually had trouble with with words and trying to get out what I was feeling, because they opened it up. That they said, we know you went through a rough call. We know that and by that time we had already told them the details of it, and they were like, so they went through each one of us individually and said, what are your feelings on it? What are your thoughts about it? And when it came to me, I was like, I I don't know. I don't know. A 12-year-old girl's dead. That's my thought.
Right,
Um,
right,
but other than that, most of the other semi-traumatic calls, I was able to talk through, at least the ones that affected me. There were some traumatic calls that I've that I chalked down as part of the job, and um, those were I was able to talk through, tell them exactly how I was feeling about it, what I thought we did, what I thought we could have done better, that kind of stuff. But the 12-year-old is really the only one that I had a loss of words for, other than the fact that a 12-year-old girl is not dead.
right. I got a comment, and I also have a question over here. So my man Israel over here on the Instagram, he says you guys are both blessed to have each other, and
Very.
that's to you. Huge compliment. Thank you for that, man. And any questions that you have, just put them down there. Any other comments that you have, just put them down there. I'm gonna make sure that we read them out loud. And also with Lincoln, he put up also with being an EMT. I know that some incidents people are panicking. How are you able to keep your composure? I think that's a really, really good question, because I do know that the stresses, things, adrenaline, excitement, all of these different things can play a factor in there. How does one like yourself keep your composure in those situations?
Because you have to remember why you're in that situation. You as a first responder, you are there because you have a job to do, and you have to do it quickly. You have to. It's something you just have to do. It's definitely an acquired skill, but you have to push out everyone around you, except for your partners, because they're helping you. But all the bystanders and everyone that is freaking out about it, you have to push them, phase them out. You obviously have to maintain situational awareness. Like, you have to occasionally glance around to make sure the situation's still safe for you to be there. But you
Hmm.
have to tune everyone else out, and you have to focus on the reason you're there. Focus on your patient. That's the biggest thing for me, is that I'm there to do a job. I have to do my job. Don't get in my way. If you do,
Right.
I'll get you out of my way. But
I love that.
at the end of the day, uh, I have the job to do, and I know what my job is. I know what this patient needs. I know what I need to do for them.
Okay. Okay. So now I guess my next question would be, because I love the fact that you said that, like, you either get out of my way or I'm going to move you out of my way and
Yep.
things like that. Because, I'm the same way, like, get out of my way. I'm like a
Yeah.
freight train. Once I get to moving, I'm going to run you over. So please just move out of my way and let me do what I need to do. Right.
Exactly.
Um, and so now, standing in the midst of servitude to other people, what is the biggest reward that you've ever, I mean, and I'm not talking about medals, but a sense a self-worth reward that you may have experienced in this whole sense of servitude to other people? You know.
The biggest one, and this I still, um, yeah, when you are able to actually legitimately save a life. That has happened to me 3 times where we responded to someone who was dead, and we got their pulse back, got them to the hospital, and they left the hospital with no neurological deficits because a little bit of education here. If the brain goes without oxygen for over 10 minutes, I believe, your even if they do get you back, the odds are astronomical that you walk out of the hospital at all, let alone with no neurological issues. And that's happened to me 3 times. One of them has actually come back to the firehouse. The patient did that was dead, came back to the firehouse to thank everyone. And that has happened to me 3 times. Well, the one only came back, but I have personally been involved in 3 saves, as we call them, and that alone is a huge, like, that makes everything else, all the trauma, all the all the blood, all the guts, all the death, that alone makes it worth it.
Wow. And I know I heard a little one in the background, so I know you probably have to run real soon and everything. I saw you looking back. And
Yeah,
I want
just
to respect for your time and everything, especially with the family time. I know it's probably getting a little bit later in the afternoon for you and everything. And so, as we begin to wrap up, tell little man I said hi and everything, and
I've actually got a suggestion real quick.
yes.
If I just need to go get him real quick. If you want to use that, this kind of pause to really bring the questions in, I can go get him, calm him down, and then I can come back and answer
Most
answer
definitely.
them.
Everybody, get your questions in the comments. Get your questions and comments in the comment section. Let me go do this real quick, and then that way, when we get back, we can start answering all these questions as we go and everything. And first and foremost, I want to say thank you guys for everything, for the support. Thank you guys for tuning in. If it's your first time tuning in, do me a favor, head on over to their YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. I just want to say, man, thank you guys for everything that you allow me to be able to do, and keep bringing these amazing stories to you guys. Everything that you need to know about me is right there down below. You know what I'm saying? We got the YouTube channel on, up there. We also have the website, so we are taking donations. We got the magazine, which is going to be out for Christmas. If you guys want a subscription and everything, go in there, help us out. All right. This allows us to keep doing these things for you guys. And he is back, and he got the little man with him. You know what I'm saying? Handsome little guy. Hi, buddy. Hi. Nice. Welcome to the show. You got a whole lot to say today?
Yeah, he does.
Dude, we all with it. We with it. What you got to say? Come on. Give us some words of inspiration.
What you got?
What you got? What you got?
No, you're just gonna look at the camera.
That's okay. It's almost like he's teasing.
Oh, absolutely. He's got two teeth coming on the bottom.
Okay, that's what he's doing right now.
Yep.
Israel, my man over on Instagram, said, "Why did you join the field?"
So my initial motivation was to be, because I would watch my friend that I was hanging out with, drop everything he was doing. Doesn't matter what it was. Doesn't matter how deep. We came. There was one time we came close to beating a video game that we had been working on for probably 2 months, and we were this close to beating the game. A call came out. He dropped his controller and ran. That kind of dedication to a job really, really resonated with me, and I wanted to be able to be, the guy that people were calling when they needed help.
Okay.
the one, the guy walking under the yellow tape, as they say, just being the one they look to. That was my initial, that was my hi that was my initial drive to do it. It still is, but um, now it's just being able to be a service to the community, and not only responding to calls, but with like fire prevention. So a lot of times we'll go over to, hi, we'll go over to like the schools, and we'll answer questions for them. We'll put on a little demonstration with fire extinguishers. We'll put on a little demonstration on how we search a building on fire for victims. That kind of PR stuff. So being able to just be a service in multiple avenues and multiple ways.
Nice, very nice. The little one got me over here laughing because the little one's like, "I'm going to play with this." You're like, "No,
No, please don't.
But I find that and I find that very commendable, and I want to say again, if I didn't say it before, even if I've said it multiple times, I'm going to say it again. Thank you for your service and everything
Thank you.
that you do, because it does take a different it takes a different individual to go out here, face all of the darkness that you see, the ups and downs, the craziness, the bloods and guts, and things like that, and still have a passion for going out there. Because I have talked with long-term EMTs or first responders, and I would tell you, some of them are just like, I'm so tired. I am so tired. The nightmares are there. They're in consistent counseling, grief, trauma, PTSD, addiction, all of these different things, and they're alone because their marriages didn't work. And so, man, thank you, for what you do.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
And also thank you for sharing the little one with us as well, man. This is pretty cool. And they're gonna look back on this and be like, I was in there. Like, yeah, you on that show when I was up there with Tony and stuff like
Yeah.
that. That's gonna be pretty doggone cool.
10 years later, you're just like, yeah, that was you.
Yeah, that was you right there, right? Israel said, I love that response. And I think we all do. We love that response. And here's a comment from Lincoln. He goes, again, thank you for your service, and please also tell your wife for her service. Much respect.
Absolutely, will do. Appreciate you.
Most definitely. Like I said, man, it's got a lot of people out here that that respect what you do, and I'm also one of them, right? And with that being said, because I know it's getting late, and little one. He's like, I'm about to mess up some stuff, and I definitely don't want to take away from your family time, man. And I just appreciate the time that you have spent with us to share your journey, share your story, share your service with us. And I want to welcome everybody and thanking TJ for being on the show today. And before I let you go, TJ, I always have to finish off like this. If you can leave the audience with something, what would you leave them with?
That's a very open. I love how open-ended that is, because I could answer it in so many different ways, and I'm trying to just find the right words that would reach everyone and not just a certain group of your audience.
Right.
There's always light at the end of the tunnel. No matter what you're going through, it may not seem like it at the time, but there's always light at the end of the tunnel. It will get better no matter what you're going through. You could be going through addiction, you could be going through divorce, you could be having impure thoughts. I'm not going to elaborate on that, but you could be having some thoughts that maybe you think you shouldn't have. It's going to get it will get better. Don't try to do it on your own. That never works. If you can, more power to you. but don't try to do it alone. Lean on anything you can. Lean on your family. If you don't have family, reach out. There are tons and tons of Facebook groups dedicated to to helping people. I'm a part of a first time dad's Facebook group, and my wife is a part of a first responders wife's Facebook group. And everyone just talks up each other so much. So if you don't have if you don't have friends, if you don't have family, social media is a great platform to use. And find hobbies. You don't have to be good at them as long as you enjoy doing them. I absolutely suck at bowling, but I have so much fun with it when I do it. It takes my mind off of everything, no matter how bad I'm doing. So find those avenues. Use help. Get help. Whether it's family, whether it's friends, whether it's social media.
Hi, buddy.
What he said. Whether it's
I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
whether it's a counselor, whatever it is, a psychiatrist, psychologist, whatever it is, therapist, whatever. Get or use help. Take what's offered to you. Take all the avenues of help that are available, and take advantage of them as much as you can, because it's a journey, but it's not one you have to or should do alone. But there is light at the end of the tunnel, and it will get better.
That's something I'm glad that you said that, because it's something I've always preached since I've been in the field of grief and working with men. Like, don't do it alone. This is it's such a shared human experience that you're not designed to do it alone. I know. Look, and this is a hell of a contradiction, because I'm the lone wolf, right? I always felt as if I have to take on these tasks alone in order to get it out there. It took me a long time to realize that it takes a team in order to build everything that you're doing, right? But it takes the right people to come alongside of you to help guide you, mentor you, and walk with you and hold you accountable.
Yep, absolutely. And one of the things that I did after that 12-year-old girl call, you have to be able to, even if you do have the people around you to do it, you have to actually reach out to them and tell them you need help. You can't just sit in front of them and, like I did with my mom, you can't just sit there all gloom with your head in your hands expecting them to know what's wrong.
Right.
Like he said, you have to reach out.
You have to. I get what he's saying. I get exactly what he's saying. He's using a play on words. He don't think I understand, but I do.
Exactly. We all understand, but we get it. You have to tell them. You have to tell the people around you need help. Tell them how they can help you. So after the 12-year-old girl, I told my wife, what was therapeutic for me on that specific call, was I told her I need to go back to the spot where it happened. I need to go back to that scene and see it without the patient and the gore there. I need to, because she ended up landing on a sidewalk. So I told her I need to go back there and see that sidewalk normal without all the other stuff on it, without all the gore on it. And we did. We went back there and we stood there probably for a good 15 minutes, and I just stared at the spot where this 12-year-old girl was. And after we left, I felt, I can't explain it, but literally 15 minutes of looking at that spot, staring at it, not saying a word. And as soon as we left, I felt so much better. Haven't had a nightmare about it since.
Nice. So now my next question is for the little guy. What are your thoughts on all of this?
You gonna tell him about it?
What are your thoughts on it?
You gonna tell him about it? Say, tell him.
You think it? I mean, while you're thinking about it, you let us know when you're ready to comment on it and things like that. Because I mean, we want to make sure that we include everybody, even the babies.
Yeah, we
Okay?
got to hear you. We got to hear you.
Hey, I know you got a language that you think that nobody understand, but everybody up here that has kids,
Oh, we get it. We get it.
we understand the language, and I know that you see a whole lot of stuff over there that you want to play with. But whenever you get ready, give us your thoughts, okay? Thank you for including the little. Yeah, most definitely. I understand the hand gesture too. Hey, you know what I'm saying? We're gonna keep it rolling. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna take that as a sign of good luck and things like that because he was like, "Yeah, we're gonna keep this going," and I really enjoy that. I really enjoy that. And with that being said, how can people find you?
So I've got a few avenues. If they would like to send me, if it's not business related, they can send me an email to my personal email. It's actually I'll join this chat real quick, and I gotta do it through my YouTube account, and I will put in. There we go. There's your answer.
Yeah, I'm already look. I knew he had something to say before we as we was wrapping up.
Oh
I
yeah,
knew it.
oh yeah. He just had to think about what he was going to say. Yeah,
and I'm all for it. I'm all for what he just said. Y'all didn't understand. He said we as men need to get ourselves together. Okay, that's
exactly.
What he said. He tired of all the BS. All right, we got to get ourselves together. So commend the little man for putting it out there and holding us accountable.
Absolutely.
And everything. All right, y'all put that on out there for him.
So I can't.
I can't. Years, y'all gonna understand what he just said. He's like, y'all get it together. All right.
Yep. Absolutely. I can't join the chat there. I'm having some technical difficulties, but now he's all about it.
Yeah, he's all about it now. Look, we could have used your 2 cents when we were having the conversation. Now you want to jump in.
Now you want to say something, yeah.
And now you want to say all kinds of stuff and things like that. You know what? I'm holding you accountable and everything. Yeah, no. I'm holding you accountable, little man. That's what I'm doing. All right. We're gonna have a talk. We
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You're gonna have face to face.
Yeah, Tony's a big kid. I speak fluent baby, right? No matter where you're from, the language is always the same. I speak.
Oh, absolutely,
baby.
Absolutely. So I'm having technical difficulties. I can't join the chat, so I'll spell out my personal email. It's T as in Tom, J, just like my name, and then Freeze, just like my last name, FRIES 87 at Yahoo. That's my personal email. If it's business related and you want to know more about my business, which is getting new business owners business funding, you can email me at confidentialconsulting29@gmail. And then I've also got a secondary email. It's where'd it go? It's fully FULLY involved consulting@gmail.com. Those are 3 best avenues to get me. And I'm not going to give on my personal phone number just because I already get a lot of texts and emails through their business, so I'm not going to get that out yet. But if I do get any emails, I'll give my personal number out there. But those 3 emails are the best ways to get a hold of me.
Most definitely, and I definitely appreciate that. When you sent me your information, I do believe I put your information in the description down below. Okay. I do have your one cheater, so if somebody needs to know, I can always send that over there to them as well. And and with that being said, I want to thank everyone that has been tuning in for your questions, comments, and just supporting the channel. Really, just supporting the channel. And little man over there, help with, joining in at the last minute. We could have used his insight at the beginning.
I know.
He could have had some answers out here and things like that, but he just gonna wait till the last minute to come up here and just start talking. Little man, love you. Thank you for joining in and holding us accountable and everything. And for everyone else, this is going to conclude this episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. And as always, I love you guys. Guys, enjoy the rest of your day. And we're going to see you guys in the next episode. All right. And if this is your first time tuning in, as always, do me a favor, go over to that YouTube channel. It's right there down there below. Let's Talk About a Podcast on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. And if you're someone who would like to donate to the organization, my nonprofit, www.mensgriefsupport.org. You can go there. You can donate. Also, we got the magazine that's going to be coming out for Christmas. We got the Christmas edition, double edition, or double everything. Go there, get yourself a subscription, get your digital download, and make sure that you let everybody else know that what we're doing over here. We're trying to make sure that everybody has the resources and the support that they need as they're navigating this world of grief, trauma, and mental health. All right, as well as addiction. And I want to again thank my guest TJ Fries for joining in and sharing his journey with us. And with that being said, you guys, we're going to see you in the next episode. Love you. You guys have an amazing day.